All right, my friends, J.R. Dukes here. Appreciate everybody joining me. We just hit the go button, so we're going to give everybody a minute to join us. Give me 1 second. I got to check, make sure everybody's doing good on Facebook. By the way, welcome. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead, introduce yourself in the chat. Say hello. Let us know where you are from. I like seeing everyone from all over the world. Okay, looks good on Facebook. Obviously, we are good on YouTube, Twitch, and the X platform. It's like magic. It all comes alive at one time, right? Obviously, I always appreciate everybody joining me. If you would like to join the chat today, feel free to consider doing so. Let me get you a quick link for that. All you have to have is a microphone, a camera. No special software is required. You can join at any time. It's all via StreamYard. I love their software. And their system seems like it works pretty good. But here's the link I'm putting in the chat right now. There you guys go. Looks like everybody's starting to pile in. Hello, First Hawk Feathers 54, North Central Florida. Okay, we're not too far from you. I'm over here in Tampa Bay area, and I live in a small town called Zephyr Hills, Florida. Y'all ever seen Zephyr Hills water? I never really paid any attention to the name Zephyr Hills until I moved here. It's been about 10 years ago, I guess now. But Zephyr Hills, I don't even know how the town got its name. I don't think anybody really does. Thanks for joining us, Miss Smoot. And always, Zach. Oh, good. You got your notification finally. That is good. If y'all ever have a problem getting notifications when I go live or when I release a video, all you need to do, as far as I'm concerned, is unsubscribe. And I know very, very rarely do you hear anybody say unsubscribe, but unsubscribe, give it just a second, and then resubscribe. Sometimes that seems like that works out any kinks or bugs that might be in the software or in the app, and also turning off your phone, the usual stuff that you hear about. So we're going to start diving right into it here. We have several subjects to talk about in Fani world. Sweet Fani. By the way, I released a video about this today, or at least one of the Fani. There's 2 or 3 subjects that are frankly breaking news in the Fani Willis case. And I did want to give a quick shout out to a few individuals. They seem to always send me good information. I want to say hello to Rudy. I want to say hi to my friend John and Mark. They are always keeping in touch with me, and it's kind of nice to have people to chat with, to be perfectly honest with you folks. You know, it's wonderful that YouTube allows us to have this community. I hear a lot of people complain about YouTube and policies and whatnot, but I really have no complaints. I think they have a pretty good system, and it's a privilege to be able to participate on it. It's just amazing how this works, where we can have like a family, if you will, right here on YouTube. One of these days, it may be a family of 10,000 people. I don't know. But for now, just a few hundred people seems like it works out pretty good. And sometimes we have north of 1,000. At any rate, it is a pleasure to chat and say hello. Y'all see the link? We got everything in. Looks good. Everything's working. Let's dive into it today. All right. I was mentioning a second ago that I released a new video today. If you haven't seen it, it pertains to the first subject pertaining to Nathan Wade. Remember, he is the ex-paramour, prosecutor, lover of Fani Willis. Yeah, and by the way, if you have any trouble hearing me or any issues, please type it in the comment, or you will see a direct voice number for me. Obviously, I cannot talk with you right now, but you can text if there's an issue or a concern that you have. Feel free to use that number if you're so inclined. All right, let's take a look at what we're going to basically go over today. The last few days, this last week, I've been talking about the House of Representatives and some serious issues I see on the horizon. And when I talk about the horizon, I'm talking about Monday. We're right now Thursday. We're talking just a few more days. There are some serious problems going on in the House of Representatives, and we're going to just touch on it for a second. Y'all remember George Santos and how they were baited into ousting him. Well, unfortunately, as of, I think it's going to be April 17th, the Republicans are going to be down to a one vote majority. Can you believe that? The control of the federal government comes down to one person in the Republican Party. And the Republicans, in order to advance their agenda, we'll have to have everybody on the same boat. And unfortunately, as we have discussed many times, the Republicans are terrible about grouping together, sticking together, banding together, and working as a cohesive unit like the Democrats do. Now, the Democrats have infighting, just like the Republicans do, but generally they try to keep it in the family or in the house. And even if they do argue publicly, at the end of the day, they generally vote as one cohesive unit because they know that is the best way to advance their agenda. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, to that situation, but the rule, or I should say the exceptions, are generally far and few between. There is some obvious fracturing in the Democratic Party pertaining to the Israel-Gaza situation. It's extremely unfortunate that we have a President Biden who seemingly is turning his back on Israel at this time. Fortunately, they are still sending weapons to Israel and supporting them behind the scenes, I guess is probably the best way to say it. Unfortunately, because it's an election year, you have seen Joe Biden, his administration, make a deliberate, direct pivot away from Israel and supporting Israel, especially with this fiasco that just happened with these aid workers being killed. That's unfortunate, but what do you expect in a rather small area and you're dropping bombs on people that are hiding among their own population? It's just really despicable, but hopefully that works itself out one way or the other, and we don't take any further action against Israel because these folks need to be supported. Can you imagine if that happened in the United States, where you had individuals popping over the border and hang gliders and killing men, women, children, babies? I don't want to get too descriptive or too nasty about it, but if you're interested in the details and the inhumane things that they did to men, women, and children, you need to go ahead and Google it. It is rather unspeakable. It reminds me of something back during the 1940s when Hitler was in power. It's really shocking of the conscience. The main reason I wanted to touch on the House of Representatives is because Lorraine Boebert has been in the hospital. Remember, we're down to essentially a one vote majority in the House of Representatives, and you have this Representative Boebert. I'm sure you have seen her on TV. She's pretty as far as I'm concerned, and she's extremely conservative, which is fine. I don't have a problem with conservative folks. My politics tend to lean that way, even though I don't necessarily feel that I fit any particular party or any particular agenda. And she has been diagnosed with some type of syndrome in her left leg that is generally caught, if you will, by women that are between the ages of 20 and 45 and women that have had children, or at least one child, meaning a pregnancy during that time frame. So we wish her well, and I'm just showing you how tenuous this whole situation with the House of Representatives is. One person doesn't show up, one person misses out, one person calls it quits. It's over with. It's just that simple. And remember, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has filed a motion to vacate the Speaker's seat. Now, there's some technicality that she has to do in order for it to be official, but published reports have it that she has been very adamant that she intends on going forward with this motion to oust Speaker Johnson, just like they did Matt Gaetz. You know how human nature is. Human nature is such that if you're in that type of position and you're ousted, you're probably going to quit. You're probably going to resign Congress, because let's just be honest about it. If you were the Speaker of the House, put yourself in that position, and you were ousted by one vote, and you would find yourself in an embarrassing, humiliating type situation, I would say most people would probably end up resigning, saying, you know, basically, the hell with this, I'm going to go do something else. And that's exactly what former Speaker Kevin McCarthy did. And I predict that if that happens, that's what's going to happen to Speaker Mike Johnson, which is unfortunate, because then we're going to be looking at Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. Very, very unfortunate. Of course, my thoughts and prayers are with Miss Boebert. I hope that she does make a full recovery, despite her party affiliation. She has children and things like that she needs to support. So I would never wish anybody anything bad, no matter what their party is. But she's Republican. We definitely need her, no doubt about it. This weekend, make sure you stay tuned. I plan on taking a very deep dive into two things: the upcoming trial of President Donald Trump with this bogus one merchant case, and we are going to talk about that very shortly. We're going to take a deep dive into that case. And later this month, I believe it's April 25th or 26th, they're going to have opening arguments at the U.S. Supreme Court pertaining to President Trump's claim of presidential immunity. And we're going to talk about why what's called absolute immunity is so important in this particular matter. Because, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, if we don't have a president that is absolutely immune from persecution, much less prosecution, for their official acts while they are in office, or even after they leave office for actions they took while they were in office. If we don't have absolute immunity, then what's going to happen is you're going to have one of, say, 2,300 or so Fani Willises that have a political agenda, and this is going to be par for the course, where some president leaves office, he's not a popular president among the other party, and they're going to do everything they can to weave, conceive, twist, and turn some type of case against, like they're doing to President Donald Trump. They're going to continue to do that in the future. So effectively, if that happens, hear me clearly on this. If this is confusing, this will not be confusing. Effectively, you're going to have the judicial branch swallow up the presidency. So we will not have three co-equal branches of government at that point. Unfortunately, at what I refer to as the deep state would have won at this particular juncture and taken out our last best hope in our government structure, to have somebody put in there that would be what we would generally call a populist, that would go in there and do the will of the people, like we are applauding and hoping for with President Donald Trump. Does that make sense? I hope everybody understands that. And if you don't, make sure you tune in, because I will be taking a very deep dive into this exact matter. The way you can be alerted, obviously, is by hitting the subscribe button. Make sure the bell notification is on, and whenever I release a video or go live, you will be informed of the fact that I'm live or released a video. Also, we're going to drill down into Nathan Wade. We all know about Nathan Wade. We've talked many times about Fani Willis and her partner in crime, aka Nathan Wade. His wife, Jocelyn Wade, they've been divorcing. This is a wife of 26 years. They now are moving full steam with the divorce. They had a agreement in principle back, I believe it was in January, when all this stuff was hitting the fan, so to speak. Obviously, it's not done till it's done, and apparently Nathan Wade is not doing what he's supposed to do. So his soon-to-be ex-wife of 26 years has slapped him with what is referred to as a contempt motion, which technically means he could face criminal penalties, imprisonment, thrown in jail, stuff like this, because of allegations of not doing what the court said he has to do by honoring his agreement. And finally, if time allows, I have to talk about that judge, what's that guy's name? Judge, the U.S. District Court judge, that his name is Reggie Walton. Coincidentally, I guess it was Monday or whatever, I showed you a video, and we're going to take a look at it briefly again on CNN, where you have something rather unprecedented. A sitting U.S. judge, a court of appeals judge, is on CNN slamming Donald Trump. Yes, slamming Donald Trump. It's almost unbelievable. As I've said many times, I feel sometimes I'm in the twilight zone when I look around and I see all of this nonsense that's going on. It's always been something going on, you know? I mean, even when I was a kid, you'd hear that everything is going to hell. Everything is about to be over with, right? It really seems that way today. It just doesn't seem right that a judge, an appellate court judge, would be engaging in effective lawfare, election interference against a president, a former president, and a current Republican de facto nominee for the presidency in 2024. It's just shameful and unbelievable. However, we talked about this, and I was showing you how outrageous this was. Well, someone agrees with me, because a person that is affiliated with Donald Trump went ahead and filed a rather extensive and detailed complaint on this judge for his behavior, because as we discussed back then, the behavior this judge exhibited clearly violates the rules, what they call canons, ethics of office, and he does an excellent job of outlining his position in this complaint. And we are going to drill down on that. So let's take a quick peek and see who is in the chat. Lanny, thanks for joining us today. Yes, thanks, Lenny. Smash that like and share, and also God bless you all. Absolutely, thank you. And Nana, American Nana, it's always a blessing to have you in the house in West Virginia. And of course, my good friend Zach, Southwest Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is in the news today because there is a lot of polling information that is out. Just before I went live today, there's another poll that they're trying to tout that shows President Joe Biden is leading, is leading in that state currently. I don't know if I believe that poll, but there is a Wall Street Journal poll that is a poll of, I believe it's the leading, or I should say the 7 contentious states, if you will, the what you call the border states, as far as it's a toss-up between the two. And clearly, President Trump is leading in all of those except one where he is tied with Joe Biden. Again, in the state of Pennsylvania, there's a little bit of back and forth as to who's actually winning there. And Zach says a POTUS can fringe dementia during the last few minutes of leaving office. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to see exactly how this works out. And I think we'll have I think you all will benefit from the discussion that we're going to drill down on. So let's go ahead and let me stop sharing on this particular screen, and we are going to dive into the first article that I have here. So here we go. We're switching over. All right, our friend Nathan Wade. This comes to us from Fox 5, which is a local news channel there in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And here's the news, folks. This is what I consider the #1 news story of the day, at least as far as interest goes from my perspective. You got Nathan Wade accused of failing to pay ex-wife's medical bills and cutting off his children. Now, I have the actual document, and that's really what I want to drill down on here in a second, because it's loaded with goodies and little juicy nuggets. This Nathan Wade, this guy is quite a character. Remember, this is the guy that signed a deal with sweet Fani Willis on November 1st, 2021. And I believe at that time he made $750,000. And then on November 2nd, 2021, he goes ahead and files for divorce of his wife of then, I believe, 26 years, Jocelyn Wade. And we're gonna talk about all this. So let's continue on. This is by Joyce Lipina. I'm not sure how to say her last name. All right, the caption here. Here's our buddy Nathan Wade. Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade sits in court during a hearing in the case of the state of Georgia versus Donald John Trump at the Fulton County Courthouse on March 1st, 2024 in Atlanta, Georgia. The hearing is to determine whether Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis should be removed from the case because of his relationship with Nathan Wade. Well, we know how that ended, at least at this point. I don't believe that is over by far, because obviously, as you probably know by now, Nathan Wade was effectively ordered off the case, or Fani Willis would have to remove the case from her entire office. So Nathan Wade fell on the sword. This was a split decision by the judge. And this is the perfect example of another subject. And the subject is why we should not have elected judges. I believe the United States is the only country in the world with elected judges. And the things that have been going on currently in the world and on our news cycle shows you perfectly why we should never have elected judges. The judges should be appointed, and in my perspective, appointed for life. If they are removed, or if there's a mechanism put in there to remove them, fine. Give them a siphon, a retirement, a whatever, so they're not looking to make decisions so that at some point in the future they can get a job with a law firm or someplace better. I mean, these people have to be similar to the justices on the U.S. Supreme Court. And frankly, the U.S. Court of Appeals, these folks are all appointed. And short of an act of Congress, they cannot be removed from the bench. The fact that we allow elected prosecutors, and I should say elected judges specifically, to be the way things work is an absolute outrage. Outrageous. That's the reason why you have someone like Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, saying as she's running for office, hey, elect me and I'm going to hammer Trump. I'm going to go in every single day finding a way to make his life miserable. He is going to know my name personally. One of her constituents asked her, says, are you going to go after and get Donald Trump for us? And she goes, oh, yeah, I'm going to be a real pain in the beep for him. So it's just the way and it should not be this way. We should not have judges that are elected because they're going to do things like Scott McAfee just did. He knows that he's got a reelection. I believe his election is coming up this May. He knows he's up for reelection. And so because he has one or two people running against him, what does he do? Well, think about it from his perspective. He's got a wife, he's got children. He knows where his bread and butter is buttered, so to speak. He has to keep that job. He doesn't want to be out of office and out of work and out of a paycheck. He knows that the area he represents in Fulton County is a minority area that unfortunately is very supportive of the district attorney, Fani Willis, and her continued corruption and thieving and stealing and whatever else nonsense they're doing over there. So he's like, I got to find a way to balance this out. And that's exactly what he did. He got rid of Nathan Wade. And in my opinion, he wrote the actual ruling in such a way I cannot imagine that the Georgia Court of Appeals will not take this case. I know a lot of the talking heads out there, friends, are saying that under no circumstances is the Georgia Court of Appeals going to take this case. I'm telling you right now, they're going to take the case, period. The reason they're going to take the case is this is the kind of case any type of appellate court, any type of Supreme Court looks for. And that is a case, number one, of high public interest. And most importantly, number two, there's actually a discrepancy in the law, if you will. The need is there to have guidance. The need is there for clarification. The desperate need is there to clarify under Georgia law when and if a district attorney or some prosecutor can be removed off a case. Remember, the two conflicting examples were, number one, is it simply just the appearance of something wrong, like impropriety? And that has always been the standard that I have seen. And then number two, or do they have to prove an actual conflict? Now, in my opinion, I believe they proved an actual conflict. I mean, I'm sure you probably agree with me. It's really clear. It's obviously clear that there was an apparent conflict with this case between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade because they were financially benefiting from this case. They get to be known, famous, popular. Their names are everywhere around the entire world. And at the same time, they're enriching themselves. Nathan Wade has never seen money like this. That's clear from the divorce filings that I've already reviewed. He's never had this type of money. And now he's essentially had $1 million plus fall into his lap for basically nothing, in my opinion. So this is a lot of money. This is something that should be taken up by the Court of Appeals because it's just wrong. There's no way to have this type of corruption or evil, if you will, in a district attorney's office and say, basically, I'm going to go ahead and surgically cut out this cancer called Nathan Wade, yet the rest of the case is still okay. It's just an outrage that has went forward like that. Do you agree with me on that? Let me know if y'all agree or disagree, because I would like to know your comments on that. Okay. Says Atlanta, former Fulton County Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade is facing accusations of neglecting to cover urgent medical procedures for his ex-wife and helping support the couple's children, according to an application for citation of contempt filed with the Cobb County Superior Court on April 3rd. The papers we're going to look at clearly show, I believe it was 5:30-ish in the evening yesterday, that the actual contempt filing was made. It goes on to say, Wade was appointed as the special prosecutor by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to investigate allegations of election interference by former President Donald Trump and his supporters in the 2020 presidential election. Reportedly compensated nearly $700,000 for his work over a 2.5-year period. Wade's investigation led to the indictment of Trump and 18 others in August 2023. Nathan and Jocelyn Wade were married on June 21st, 1997, and separated on August 5th, 2021. There's a little discrepancy on that, but we'll go with it. With Nathan filing for divorce on November 2nd, 2021, one day after being hired by Fulton County. And of course, we just discussed that. Jocelyn Wade files for a motion to reopen discovery. In September 2023, Jocelyn Wade filed a motion to reopen discovery in their divorce case, citing Nathan Wade's extravagant spending habits and inadequate financial support. As a result, Nathan Wade disclosed credit card statements in December revealing non-work related expenses with Willis. You can imagine how his soon-to-be ex-wife, Jocelyn Wade, had to feel. Can you imagine hearing in the press that your husband, because they're still legally married, wrote a check for $750,000, and essentially you had sweet Fani going off to wherever with him and spending her money? I would imagine she had what could best be described as an extreme reaction to the situation. That's just my guess right here. All right, Michael Roman files a motion. In January 2024, one of Trump's co-defendants, Michael Roman, filed a motion seeking the disqualification of Willis and her team because of an inappropriate relationship with Wade. The motion also accused Willis of benefiting from hiring Wade. So they have the timeline here. We're not going to get into that. It goes on to say, initially, Willis and Wade declined to comment on the accusations and refrained from confirming or denying the alleged relationship. On January 8th, Jocelyn Wade served Willis with a notice of deposition. However, before she was scheduled to testify, the Wades reached an out-of-court settlement, relieving Willis from further legal obligations. And that was the case we watched together in Cobb County, which Cobb County, if you didn't know, is just kind of north. I'd say it's northwest of the downtown Fulton County / Atlanta area. And that's where they had to go to have this particular divorce proceeding enforced as far as the discovery goes. In other words, it's basically what they consider compelling her to testify is what that boils down to. And it goes subsequently, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee presided over several days of testimony concerning the original motion filed by Roman and similar motions from other defendants, including Trump. Wade and Willis asserted their innocence, stating they derived no financial benefit from their involvement in the prosecution of the Georgia election interference case or their relationship. Following these unprecedented proceedings, Judge McAfee ruled that neither Willis or Wade he ruled Willis or Wade must recuse themselves for the case to proceed. Wade resigned from his position a few hours after the ruling. And then, of course, we have the document right here, urgent medical procedures needed. She has been, and I'm talking about Jocelyn Wade, she's been talking about the fact that she has had to put off medical procedures that she needs because she's essentially destitute for quite some time. In a way, this is not really new news. The news is she's seeking essentially criminal contempt from Nathan Wade to have a judge compel him to do what he said he would do, to abide by their agreement. And apparently he is not able or willing to comply with what he is supposed to do. But her attorney has been in several interviews, one Pacific that I clearly remember, where this is what she was talking about, saying that Miss Jocelyn has issues, health issues, and she needs help. And instead of receiving help from her husband, remember they're still married, Nathan Wade, Fani is out spending their money, having a good time while she's in Atlanta sick and in need of medical attention. I mean, that's just crazy when you think about it. It's just wrong on so many levels. Nathan Wade allegedly instructed his ex-wife to cover the expenses himself with reimbursement at a later date, despite the court order mandating him to make direct payments to the healthcare provider. Folks, I can tell you something. If you are ever told to do something, you need to do it. Period. End of discussion. I can tell you from just memory and just things I've seen, people I've known, you don't defy the people with the black robes. If you do, you're going to have a really, really bad day and probably bad months, if not bad years. Do not do that. Do not cross the court. If they tell you to do something, you need to do it. If you can't do it or there's some other problem, you need to make sure the court is aware of that. You need to make sure your attorney is aware of that and that they contact the court. If for some reason you don't have an attorney, you better be down there talking to the judge with a handwritten whatever's going on. Make sure you don't ever defy the people with the black robes. That's the takeaway. Nathan Wade tells children to get money from Jocelyn. Moreover, Nathan Wade is accused of discontinuing financial support for their children. Now, this is going to be kind of weird because I thought their children were adults, but I don't know, because my understanding is when he filed for divorce, he literally dropped the kids, quote unquote kids, off at college, and he signed this contract with Willis and then filed for divorce. But I'm not exactly sure of their ages. Maybe it will give us more information here in a minute. All right. He reportedly informed their daughter, currently in college. Okay, here we go. Currently in college, aspiring to attend medical school, that he would no longer cover her rent and living expenses. He told his daughter this on the day that her rent was due, according to the filing. Oh my goodness. Father's Day is going to be very weird in the Wade home. Similarly, Wade reneged on his commitment to finance their daughter's MCAT expenses. Their son, pursuing a professional soccer career in Europe, was also informed by Wade to seek financial support from his mother, despite the fact that Nathan Wade promised to cover his son's expenses so he could obtain a visa. Wow, that's really striking when you think about that. We're going to read the document together. Generally, you don't have to support adult children unless they have some type of handicap or there's some other issue. I know the state of Georgia is unique in that if you have a child that is special or has special needs, you can be on the hook indefinitely for the child support. Every state is somewhat different as far as that is concerned. However, even if they are adults, if he has agreed to do A, B, and C in an agreement that was approved by the court, that's where all this kicks in, and he could end up in serious trouble from this. All right. Dire financial straits. Jocelyn Wade claims that Nathan's abrupt termination of support has left her in dire financial straits with a monthly income of less than $1,000, since she is now providing for their children. Additionally, Wade reportedly owes $15,000 to Jocelyn Wade's financial expert, who, with his failure to provide the owed amount, exacerbating the financial strain. On March 16th, Nathan Wade canceled an interview with NBC's Meet the Press on March 16th, citing a family emergency. The show announced the change in the schedule, highlighting Wade's last-minute cancellation. It is unknown what the family emergency may have been. The plot thickens, right, folks? Isn't that interesting? That is sad on so many different levels. But I happen to have, let me switch over. Yes, I have the actual document, and we are going to get into that. So the takeaway on this particular story we just read is Nathan Wade is in trouble. He obviously is not fulfilling the obligations that he said he would take care of. Apparently, he was ordered by the court to do exactly what the agreement said he should do. And apparently, he has not done that. And if that's the case, he's got some serious problem. All right, so we're going to switch to the actual document itself. Let me take a couple of your questions here. All right, we're going to stop that screen. Okay, let's take a quick peek at what we got here. Zach, I watched the lead attorney's live chat this afternoon. He covered Wade's temporary order of divorce and asserted that Wade was extorted to protect Fani from having you. I would probably agree with that. I have not read it yet, but that's probably true. But that's too bad, because that's not an illegal extortion. I would think the extortion you're referring to there would be a word meaning pressured. He's in a place, we would generally call that what, folks? Between a rock and a hard place. Yeah, you have the world's eyes looking at Nathan Wade, Fani Willis, and Nathan does not need this problem in the background where he's got a soon-to-be ex-wife roasting him on TV. I can imagine he was in a tight spot and would probably sign anything and everything he had to sign to get out of it. So it is what it is. We'll just have to see how this works out. And let's see. Lynette, thanks for joining us again. I appreciate it. Good evening from Kentucky. From Michigan, or good evening in Kentucky from Michigan, vacationing. Well, good. Have a good vacation. Good to have you. Zach, Wade agreed to pay $70,000 a year alimony, $45,000 in attorney fees, $15,000 in accounting fees, uncovered medical bills. Wow. Yeah, and she doesn't have a job, and they were married a long time, and this is where this type of problem really can be very nasty and sad. The agreement was to pay the medical bills. Yeah, we're going to dive into that right now. See, this is the reason why when you have a long-term marriage like this, folks, this is where it gets really sad, and it's unfortunate. I don't know exactly what the circumstances were for this particular divorce, but obviously there's some serious issues here and some serious problems going on. And I feel bad, frankly, for Jocelyn Wade, because she has given what, 20 some years, 26 years to this man. They've raised their children together. I see a lot of stories, and I don't know if this exactly fits this story, but I see a ton of stories where you have basically the breadwinner, generally maybe the husband, he's going to law school, she's working with him to go to law school, puts him through law school. At the same time, they have a family together, they have their children together, they raise their children. She's working at home as basically what we would refer to as a housewife, as I guess they call it domestic engineer. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. But they're working as a team together. Unfortunately, now that they're going to get a divorce, he's the one that makes all the money. She doesn't have any marketable skills right now, definitely no skills on the level that he has. And if that is the case, as I described it, she is definitely entitled to something substantial in the form of alimony. I am pretty confident that the state of Georgia has alimony provisions. And if there's any case that would warrant alimony, it would be this type of case. Generally, like I know here in Florida, you got to be married 7 years, 8 years. Nowadays, the courts really don't like alimony. I mean, I'm just telling you, they don't, because they know people are divorcing all the time, and they don't want a situation where, let's just say it's a woman. A woman's living with a new boyfriend, but they won't marry because she's getting all that money coming in. I mean, it gets really touchy and it gets complicated. But this type of situation, in my opinion, is a no-brainer. 20 some years of marriage. She's apparently raised the children. He's now a practicing lawyer, able to make the big dollars. She's entitled to be taken care of. I don't really care what the situation is. That's just the way I see it. Y'all agree, disagree? Put in the comments below, and I'll be happy to take a look at it. All right, let's go ahead and let's look at this document right here. I think I'll just do it this way. All right, let's take a look at this and see how this works out. Okay, this is the actual document. I think it's 20 some pages long. And yeah, it's 22 pages long. Let's take a peek at it. Obviously, it's in the Superior Court of Cobb County, state of Georgia. You have Nathan Wade. He's the one that actually filed for divorce some time ago. It's been years ago. It just has not been brought to a conclusion. And then Jocelyn Wade, of course, the soon-to-be ex-wife, that is the defendant. This is a certificate of service. The certificate of service, we're going to start back up here at the top. That's what happens when I preview. All right, same thing I just said. Remember I mentioned earlier that it was filed yesterday? It was April 3rd at 5:15 p.m. When you file paperwork with the court, a lot of times now you can do it electronically. Most attorneys, even today, when they have something they want to file and they want to get it done as soon as possible, they generally bring the paperwork over to the county recorder's office in Cobb County, Georgia. You can show up at the Superior Court. You generally bring 1 or 2 copies. You give the court an original, and then you have a file stamp copy for your records. And they literally have a machine that just click like that, and it will stamp it just like that. So I'm not sure if this was done electronically, or actually it does say what it's e-filed. So you can either e-file it or you can have it stamped just like I described. Admittedly, the stamping is a little old school, but it is something that is still done if people want to get it done right away and have a file stamp copy for their record and or for their client. Defendant's application for citation of contempt. When you see contempt, if you're the person receiving the contempt motion, that is not a good place to be. Comes now the defendant, Jocelyn Wade, and files this, her verified application. Does anybody know what verified means? It simply means it is notarized. Certain types of motions, certain types of pleadings have to be verified, aka notarized, because when you sign these type of documents, you file these type of documents, number one, they're very serious, and generally you're filing them under penalty of perjury, that you believe the facts herein are true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief. All right, application for citation of contempt against the plaintiff, Nathan Wade, and in support thereof. We will show this honorable court as follows. All right, here we go. On January 30th, 2024, this honorable court entered a consent temporary order hereafter called temporary order, in the above captioned matter, incorporating by reference as unified consent temporary agreement, quote, temporary agreement, just a bunch of legalese here. We'll be through this in a second, which was reviewed and approved by the court. The parties agreed that the temporary agreement would not be filed with the court or disseminated to third parties unless there was an enforcement issue. So why would they do that? Well, the eyes of the world are on this particular case. Remember, they had an agreement in principle, so they just verified exactly what I was thinking. They actually were before the court, and the court signed off on their agreement that they had between them. It's just that simple. And because they don't want the world knowing what their private agreement is, this is generally how you do it. You have to file the documents with the court, but a lot of times if you want to keep it private and the court allows it, you can say, here's our agreement, and our agreement we're going to call something else, and this is what they're calling it, temporary order. And it's generally not filed with the court, but everybody knows what's in it. And unless there's a problem like she's describing here, there's no reason for it to be disseminated to the world. It's just a way, to make a long story short, it's just a way to keep things more private. Just that simple. All right. Or disseminate to third parties unless there was an enforcement issue. Guess what? There's an enforcement issue. Consent order, temporary order attached to is Exhibit A. There we go. This is what I was talking about. Consent temporary agreement attached hereto is Exhibit B. All right. The temporary agreement states as follows regarding defendant's health care expenses. Plaintiff will pay all uncovered medical expenses. Now, remember, the plaintiff is Nathan Wade. Will pay all uncovered medical expenses for defendant apart from any elective cosmetic surgery. In other words, he doesn't have to pay for a boob job if she decides to go in and have an elective boob job. Makes perfect sense. Until further order of the court, plaintiff will additionally pay for routine dental and vision care with a cap of those items of $500 per year. The defendant will forward invoices to the plaintiff, Nathan Wade. So Jocelyn Wade will send an invoice to Nathan Wade, who will pay the same instant, or just a fancy legal term here, to the medical provider directly or make arrangements with the provider. If defendant's provider requires immediate payment at the time of service, plaintiff will be notified by the defendant, and plaintiff shall arrange to pay instantly, essentially, to the provider. And plaintiff to be provided receipts, etc., from the defendant, if not sent to the plaintiff directly by the provider. Defendant shall file claims with the insurance company and shall forward all monies received to plaintiff upon receipt. So the takeaway here is Nathan Wade agrees to pay for these medical expenses, and the dental is capped at $500 per year. So that's a pretty good agreement to cover expenses that the wife is going to incur. Defendant urgently requires medical procedures, namely an endoscopy, a colonoscopy, and ultrasound, due to severe physical symptoms she has been enduring. And folks, she has been enduring this apparently for quite some time, because, as I said earlier, this is not the first time she has had a medical problem, and I'm sure she's probably in a lot of pain and she needs medical attention right away. These symptoms have significantly impacted her ability to consume most foods, leading to a substantial weight gain, notwithstanding her already slender stature when in better health. Upon information and belief, her condition is worsening, and delaying these diagnostic procedures may necessitate emergency intervention unnecessarily. So in other words, time is of the essence, folks. Defendant has duly notified plaintiff of the urgent necessity for these medical procedures and the need for prepayment in the amount of $4,400. Specifically, she has communicated that the medical facility will not even schedule these vital tests until the plaintiff prepays the associated copay directly to the health care provider. We probably all have seen this ourselves. There's a lot of doctors, a lot of procedures that you have to have done, and depending on your insurance, depending on what you're having done, they won't even schedule you an appointment unless and until you cough up the money. You have to have the money or they're not going to take care of you. It's just that simple. All right. Despite a direct request from the defendant to plaintiff for prepayment and on additional demand from defendant's counsel, meaning the attorney got involved, to the plaintiff's counsel, the plaintiff has failed and neglected to fulfill his obligation under the temporary order to cover these necessary healthcare costs. Indeed, plaintiff has instructed defendant to make payment to the provider herself with an assurance of reimbursement. He's lying, okay? He's just lying. He's not going to cover it. Exhibit C, attached here to, comprises copies of emails exchanged between the parties and a subsequent email to the plaintiff's counsel, further elucidating the aforementioned interactions. Got a lot of big words in this document here. Ironically, the defendant finds herself unable to fulfill the payment obligation to the healthcare provider despite not being legally obligated to do so, due to the actions of the plaintiff. On the day immediately following the entry of the order on January 30th, 2024, plaintiff informed the parties' daughters and upperclassmen in college with hopes of entering middle school in the near future that he would discontinue payment of her rent and living expenses, instructing her to get the money from your mother. It is noteworthy that the daughter's rent was due that very day, demonstrating defendant's unwavering commitment to her children's education and future. She promptly covered her daughter's rent payment and as continued to do so every month thereafter with the money she receives in spousal award under the temporary order and agreement. As an additional note, plaintiff has very punitively reneged on his commitment to cover their daughter's MCAT expenses as well. So he's checking out, folks. He's not willing to pay for his daughter, pay for his son, pay for his current wife, his soon-to-be ex-wife. It's just it's sad, right? The party's son is currently in Europe pursuing a career as a professional soccer player. That sounds a little sketch, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot about soccer, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm not a fan of Nathan Wade, but I'm not sure why he agreed to pay for adults' expenses anyways. But as I said earlier, I know that he was kind of between a rock and a hard place. That's probably why he originally did it. But if he's on the line to do it, he's got to do what he promised the court he would do. Despite plaintiff executing a verified affidavit to the country of Spain, affirming financial responsibility for his son's expenses for visa purposes, he subsequently informed his son shortly after the temporary order was entered that he would no longer be providing support to him either. Well, he's got more problems, because if he signed a visa saying that he will cover the expenses of his son, he's got another problem. That can be a whole other serious case problem for him again. All right. Directing the son to get the money from your mother. In response, the defendant, which of course is the mother, unwilling to leave their son in a foreign country without support, has been covering all of his expenses and associated costs for the visa application process with the money she's receiving in spousal support. It says, attached here to Exhibit D is plaintiff's letter submitted in support of their son's visa application. All right, plaintiff's sudden cessation of support for the party's children has placed defendant in a dire financial strait situation. I can imagine this is probably true. She has been basically screaming from every mountain she can that she is really suffering. And I feel for her, to be honest with you, resulting in a monthly income of less than $1,000. So I don't know about you. It's going to be really tough to take care of yourself and two children with $1,000 a month. I don't know. Additionally, defendant cannot currently work due to her poor health. That's serious. As a consequence, she finds herself in a worse financial position than she was prior to the entry of the consent order. Defendant acknowledges that this court does not have jurisdiction over the expenses of the party's young adult children. All right, there we go. However, she provides this information to the court to illustrate the pressing need for this application to be addressed on the court's next available calendar. So she's asking for it to be expedited, as the defendant lacks the financial means to cover the medical procedure prepayment and await reimbursement from the plaintiff. So she's obviously got some kind of serious health issue going on that she needs immediate money so that she can get the care that she needs. Lastly, pursuant to the consent order, plaintiff was to pay the amount of $15,000 to Fraser Dieter, the firm employing the defendant's financial expert Beth Garnett. So there's leftover fees from this litigation that is going on right now between the two of them, and he has not wrote a check for that either. Plaintiff personally provided a cashier's check made payable to Fraser Dieter in the amount of $15,000 to defendant's counsel, who sent the same to Fraser Dieter by FedEx. FedEx lost the package. Oh no. And the defendant's counsel requested plaintiff's counsel to have plaintiff's address with, let me read this right, to have plaintiff's address, to have the plaintiff address this with the bank. Folks, when you lose a cashier check, I don't know if you know this or not, that's a serious problem in itself. A cashier check is similar to cash. It's a bank drawn on, it's a bank instrument. It's like the personal checking account of the bank. And generally, if you lose one like that, you have to put up a bond. It's a very complicated and convoluted process. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it can be very problematic. Upon information and belief, plaintiff had one contact with the bank who wrote a letter stating that after they did a deep dive, it would be 90 days until they can reissue a check. Oh no. Defendant seeks a court order requiring plaintiff to take whatever steps necessary to ensure the cashier check is reissued. Letter from the plaintiff's bank, lost check procedure attached here to that's bad. When it involves certified funds, that's a major problem. Personally, I don't know why they are not leaning on FedEx, but I will say this now that I'm thinking about it, because I've dealt with FedEx a lot. FedEx is not an easy company to deal with if you have a problem like this, at least in my experience. I never have had this exact problem, but I've had problems with things being broken, and it's just kind of like Matrix hell trying to get any type of resolution. Again, that's my experience. All right. Moving on, plaintiff's multiple willful failures to comply with the terms of the temporary and agreement constitutes contempt of court. Defendant has incurred attorney fees and expenses of litigation due to plaintiff's actions, which are clearly in violation of this court's January 30th, 2024 temporary order and the parties' temporary agreement, which was incorporated by reference. And as such, defendant is entitled to an award of the same pursuant to OCGA 1962 and any and all other applicable laws. Due to the worsening nature of the defendant's health, she would request that the court reduce plaintiff's response time to 5 days. Wherefore, the plaintiff respectfully requests that this honorable court, so here's exactly what she's want. This is what we call the prayer. This is what she's asking for. Number A, reduce the time for the plaintiff to respond to 5 days. Generally on these type things, you may have as much as 30 days to respond. Okay, issue a rule nisi placing this matter on the court's first available calendar. Issue a citation of contempt against the plaintiff, Nathan Wade, and find his contact to be in willful violation of the consent order, temporary order dated January 30th, 2024. Punish the plaintiff with incarceration. She wants this guy in jail. She wants him in a jail cell. Punish plaintiff with incarceration, ordering a purge in the amount sufficient for the defendant to schedule her medical payments at wit $4,400. So what does that mean? It means throw his rear end in jail. I should say throw his fanny in jail. Is that cute? All right, maybe not. Throw his butt in jail until he can scratch up $4,400 in cash and hand it over to her. Order plaintiff to file whatever documentation is required with his bank to declare the cashier's checks previously issued to the defendant's financial expert, Fraser Dieter, lost so that a replacement check can be issued. Frankly, I'm not sure if he has the authority to do that, but at any rate, you can ask for whatever and see what the judge does, right? Award defendant her reasonable and necessary attorney fees to bring forth this application for citation of contempt pursuant to OCGA 1962 and any other applicable law. And finally, award defendant such other relief that may be equitable and just. You always put that at the end of these type of documents, which basically says anything else that we show that we are entitled to, please provide that to us. That way, if they find something else out, they can at least ask for an award for whatever amount they think is just. And it is signed by Andrea D. Hastings. She is the attorney that actually gave that interview that I was referencing before. Maybe next time we get together, I'll pull that interview up and show you the relevant parts, because this lady is very well spoken. I like her. She's kind of a fiery, aggressive attorney herself. I really think she's a good attorney is what I'm trying to say. All right, we got her bar number. We got her name. She is an Alpharetta. If you're not familiar with the Atlanta, Georgia area, Alpharetta is due north of the Atlanta area, and Alpharetta is a wealthy area. That's kind of where the wealthy people live, I guess is probably the best way to say it. And here is the verification that we discussed. This just means that it has to be notarized, and you add a page, as you see right here, that says verification personally appeared before me, the undersigned attesting officer, duly authorized to administer oaths in the state and county. Jocelyn Wade, who on oath states that the facts contained in the foregoing document are true and correct to the best of her information and belief. So we talked about that. All right. Certificate of service. When you're dealing with legal papers, folks, you have to not only file it with the court, but you have to tell the court, basically swear to the court, depending on the document, you sign the certificate of service saying, hey, I put in the mail a true and correct copy of this proceeding or this document or this motion, whatever. And it says, I certify I have this day served a copy of the foregoing defendant's application for citation of contempt upon plaintiff by and through his counsel of record via statutory electronic service addressed as follows. So the attorney representing Mr. Nathan Wade is M. Scott Kimbrough. Obviously, nowadays, 2024, the courts apparently in Georgia allow you to file these type of documents, aka the certificate of service, via electronic filing, which is nice, saves trees, saves time, and you can prove easier, I would think, that you actually did send that off instead of having to send everything certified mail, return receipt requested. And of course, he sent it to her address. All right, now this is where sometimes you can get good information off these exhibits. Here's Exhibit A. Now, this was originally private. Now it's not private because there was the need for this enforcement action. And obviously, Nathan Wade did not want these documents to ever see the light of day. I would imagine because he's off this bogus RICO case, aka Fani Willis, Fulton County bogus RICO case. He's no longer has this particular pipeline of money coming in, at least to the best of our knowledge and belief. He's probably a little tighter with the cash than what he was before. I'm sure he gave a big chunk of it to Fannie. I'm sure he spent a bunch of it on Fannie's Fannie. And I'm sure he's probably back to the old grind that he used to be living paycheck to paycheck before he was able to make this score, if you know what I'm saying. All right, consent temporary order. The above and foregoing matter has been scheduled for a temporary hearing on January 31st, 2024, and the parties by and through their counsel record having reached an agreement as to all presently before the court, and the court having reviewed and said agreement. So the court read this agreement, understood this agreement, made sure the parties understood it, and the court essentially blessed it, saying, okay, I will let it go. It says the parties by and through their counsel record have entered into a temporary agreement addressing all the issues presently before the court. The parties have further agreed that the terms and provisions of the temporary agreement shall not be filed with the court. We just talked about that. They wanted this to be private. The court has reviewed the terms and provisions of the temporary agreement entered into by and between the parties to their counsels of record, and hereby approves said temporary agreement as it is just and proper in these circumstances. Let's see what information we get out of this. The court hereby adopts the terms and provisions of said temporary agreement and incorporates said temporary agreement as of said temporary agreement is fully set forth herein by both parties as required to strictly comply with. That's just a fancy way to say whatever in the agreement is restated right here. The terms and provisions of said temporary agreement shall be enforceable by either party as if said term provisions of said temporary agreement are fully set forth herein. The parties by and through their counsel record agree that the necessity for hearing set for January 31st, 2024 is hereby dissolved by this consent temporary order. They were apparently scheduled to go to court the very next day. So on January 30th, they reached this agreement. You see everybody's signature. The judge signed off right here. You have, let's see who signed off here. You got the attorneys for one side and attorney for the other side. Everybody's signing off and everybody's happy on January 30th, 2024. Obviously not today. All right, here's Exhibit B. Here's the consent temporary agreement. This is the part that was never supposed to see the light of day. Well, it is now going to see the light of day. Consent temporary agreement. The parties having come to an agreement on certain matters on a temporary basis, and the same being agreed by the parties, by their signatures herein, agrees as follows. Spousal support. So this is what she was supposed to be paid. Plaintiff will pay temporary spousal support to defendant in the amount of $5,750 per month. There you go. On or before the first day of every month beginning February 1st, 2024, by direct deposit into defendant's Chase banking account until further order of the court. Defendant to provide deposit information to plaintiff. Medical bills. This is what Nathan Wade was supposed to do by order of the court. Plaintiff will pay all uncovered medical expenses for defendant apart from any elective cosmetic procedures until further order of the court. As we just talked about earlier, that means she can't go in and get a facelift, get a boob job, whatever. She is, however, covered for necessary routine type medical expenses. Plaintiff will additionally pay for routine dental and vision care with a cap of those items of $500 a year. Obviously, they restated that near the beginning when she was telling the court what's going on. Defendant will forward invoices to plaintiff, who will pay the same instantly to the medical provider directly or make arrangements with the provider. If defendant's provider requires immediate payment at the time of service, plaintiff will be notified by defendant and plaintiff shall arrange for the payment instantly to the provider and plaintiff to be provided receipts, etc., from defendant. If not sent to the plaintiff directly by the provider, defendant shall file claims with the insurance company and shall forward any monies received to plaintiff upon receipt. So that makes perfect sense. If Nathan Wade was to pay for, let's just say, pays for a medical bill of $10,000 and the insurance company actually covered $5,000 of it, well, that money should rightly so be reimbursed to Nathan Wade. That's essentially what that means. However, Nathan Wade is on the hook, at least initially, unless and until it is fully paid. All right, fees to Frazier Dieter. The plaintiff shall pay the sum of $10,000 to Frazier Dieter for financial accounting services provided to defendant on or before February 1st, 2024. Plaintiff shall make an additional payment of $5,000 on or before March 1st, 2024. Folks, when you are going through a divorce, I don't know how many of you out there have been divorced before. It is not a fun process. It is a draining and expensive process, especially if you have any money or any assets whatsoever. I have several videos that I made a long time ago pertaining to the following. If you're going to get married, it behooves any and everybody to consider a prenuptial agreement. I know that doesn't sound very sexy. It doesn't sound like it fits in with marriage, but I promise you, you will love yourself and you will love me if you heed my advice and make sure that you have a prenuptial agreement worked out between you and your spouse before you get married. Preferably, you need to do this well in advance of the wedding. You don't want to wait till the day before the wedding and say, sweetheart, can you go ahead and sign this? Because it's not going to hold up. Because essentially, that is putting pressure on somebody. It's called undue influence or some legal theory like that. You can't do that. The more distance you can put between the day you sign, your spouse also needs to generally have legal counsel so that they can go ahead and bless it or at least give them advice. Generally, the way it works is like this. Let's say that the man has a lot of money or is financially wealthy to begin with, and he marries a woman. And again, it can be reversed. I'm just using it for examples. I know nowadays everybody gets all bent out of shape if you don't include everything, but well, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. This is for illustration purposes only. Let's say he marries a wife and the wife is not wealthy, at least to begin with, as part of the marriage, the general way you do it is both of you have to have an attorney. You're going to, the wealthier spouse is going to have to pay for an attorney, an independent attorney that's only going to represent the wife and advise her on that particular document. I went through that actually with my first wife. We technically had what's called a postnuptial agreement. We did it after marriage, and I knew what I was in when we had our postnuptial agreement, and I paid for her to go see a lawyer. I knew what was going to happen, and it happened the way I said. She shows up, and when she gets out of the meeting, she's not in a real good mood because the attorney told her, "There's no way I would sign this. He paid me this money, expecting me to tell you to sign it, and I'm not going to tell you to do that." And of course, that's not why I paid the money. I knew what he was going to say. I knew he was going to roast it and toast it and tell her don't do it. But that's the breaks. That's the way it goes. So if you need any information on that, I can talk all day about prenups and postnups and anything else pertaining to marriage as far as legal capacity. It will benefit you, your children, anyone that you can think of if you have that type of agreement. And it's not just for necessarily screwing one party out of money. It is for the protection of you, your spouse. What if there's a legal consequence? Like, take Donald Trump, for example. He's being sued by New York State, for example. Well, depending on the state you live in, let's say there's a personal judgment taken against you. If you have a prenuptial agreement and you are definitely separate parties, an agreement like that could protect your spouse and your spouse's wealth because you already had a contract in effect of how your assets and your wealth was going to be distributed separately. So it can definitely have instances where it's very, very beneficial. All right, let's move on to attorney fees. Plaintiffs shall pay $25,000 in attorney fees to defendant's attorneys. Ouch! Oh my goodness. That's a lot of money. On or before February 1st, 2024, plaintiffs shall make another payment of $10,000 to Hastings. On or before March 1st, 2024, and another payment of $10,000 on or before April 1st, April Fool's Day, right? Redacted attorney's invoice from Hastings LLC will be provided to the plaintiff's counsel within 5 days. A redacted statement, because obviously it's none of his business what they're charging for, at least when you get into the weeds, because it's attorney-client privilege between Mrs. Wade and her attorneys. All right. Home Depot card. Plaintiffs shall pay the remainder of the defendant's Home Depot credit card balance on or before March 1st, 2024. We don't know how much was on that card, apparently. All right, plaintiff to provide additional documents. Plaintiff's counsel shall provide to defendant's counsel all documentation that exists listed on Exhibit A attached within 30 days. All right, mediation. Upon receipt of all documents in existence referenced in Exhibit A, mediation shall be scheduled to occur within 45 days of the same. This is pretty common nowadays in any and all types of civil legal proceedings. They just mandate it as part of basically the normal course of business. You can pretty well be assured you're going to be in mediation, especially in a divorce case where you have minor children. It's just the way it works out. All right, marital residence. The marital residence shall be listed for sale immediately pursuant to the side sale agreement, which is not currently signed at the time of this consent temporary agreement. If the parties cannot agree to the terms of the side sale agreement, each party will submit proposed side sale agreements to the court, who will choose one or enter its own. Plaintiff shall have temporary exclusive use of the marital residence. So Nathan Wade is the one in the marital residence. The side sale agreement shall be provided. What this means is they're going to sell the house. The side sale agreement shall be provided that both parties may submit the names of 3 listing agents from different brokerages, and the parties may choose one of the 6 total proposed listing agents. If the parties cannot agree, the parties shall submit their choices to the court, who will choose. All net proceeds from the sale of the home shall be deposited into the IOLTA account of the plaintiff's counsel and held until further order of the court. Each party warrants that there are no liens or other loans secured by the marital residence apart from the mortgage currently held by the mortgage company with an approximate payoff of $245,000. It's amazing that he would owe that much on his house, especially with him making all that money. Well, that I guess at the time they weren't together, so he wasn't going to pay off the house. But this is just another illustration of the fact Nathan Wade wasn't making squat. As an attorney, he's supposed to be this really great RICO prosecutor. He's got on his website, he's got all these credentials that, in my opinion, are I don't want to say they're fake, but they're definitely overblown. They're meaningless, and they're probably hyped. But at the end of the day, listen, this guy is the age he is. He works as an attorney, and his house is not paid off. That just strikes me as odd, folks. He's got grown children. I don't know exactly how many years he's been a practicing attorney, a judge, and all this other stuff he claims to be, which is not exactly true to the sense that we think of when we think of a judge. And his house has that type of a mortgage on it. It just strikes me as odd. All right, counsel shall cooperate regarding having defendant's personal property removed from the marital residence prior to closing. In other words, the attorneys are going to get together and figure out how they can get their property out of the house before the house closes. All right, agreement to be incorporated into a consent temporary order by reference. This consent temporary agreement shall be incorporated into a consent temporary order to be filed with the court and shall be enforceable as though fully set forth in the order signed by the court. Just another one of these boilerplate languages saying whatever this agreement says on the residence, we're going to pretend it's incorporated completely herein. Agreement not to be distributed. Okay, this is what we were talking about. This was never supposed to go public. The parties agree that copies of this consent temporary agreement shall not be disseminated to third parties, but may be introduced as evidence in an order to demonstrate the terms and provisions which were incorporated by the consent temporary order in the event of an enforcement or contempt action. In witness thereof, the parties hereto have executed this consent temporary agreement as okay. Obviously, this is an enforcement action, and that's the reason why you're seeing all this information right here. Folks, if I had to guess, what's probably going on here is Nathan Wade doesn't have the money. That's just my guess. We're going to find out as time goes on. If you recall, we basically, I think we hinted at it at one time. There's a lot of chatter out there, and I've seen evidence myself just in the divorce documents that I have looked at. Nathan Wade, in my opinion, has been playing games with this divorce. And the game that a lot of married people play that are going through divorce, unfortunately, is they try to hide assets. He's been trying to start and restart different law firms, like it was Wade, Campbell, and something PC. And then it was like Wade and Campbell PC. And now it's just the law offices of Nathan Wade. When I see stuff like that, I'm thinking people are trying to hide money. It's a game of hide the sausage. Where is the money? What entity is it in? Because he's got different entities set up. It takes a forensic accountant sometimes to go through and find money like this. And now that I think about it, I'm just going to guess here. I bet the vast majority of his money is in cash at Fani Willis's house. Because remember, black people keep their money in cash and at home. So he probably gave it to his BFF, Fani Willis, to hold for him. Y'all remember that? Okay. Being a little tongue in cheek there. All right, here's all the signatures. And good, we got a little bit of exhibits here. This is going to be probably emails we're looking at right here. So sent from, all right, forward importance, high importance. So this is sent from Hastings, which is one of the lawyers to the other lawyer. She says, please see attached email exchange between the parties below. As you know, Mr. Wade is required by the consent temporary agreement to pay Miss Wade's medical bills instantly upon her forwarding the same. Mr. Wade is refusing to do so despite the clear language of the agreement. We would appreciate it if you would have him rectify this failure before the close of business today, so we're not forced to file a motion to compel against him. This is Andrea Hastings, who of course is the attorney for the soon-to-be ex-wife, Mrs. Jocelyn Wade. This is sent April 1st, so this is a recent document. Generally, you have to send this type of a document before you can file a motion for contempt, or frankly, a lot of these type of push motions, these types of compel motions. And in this case, it's more than just compel. They're actually looking to have him incarcerated. All right. And then here is one from Nathan Wade. We got his email address here, and then Jocelyn's email address. Okay, I think I think the simplest thing to do is for you to just pay it and get your treatment done. I can reimburse you. This is another, in my opinion, this is just another scam by Nathan Wade. Hey, listen, why don't you just go ahead and pay it yourself and I'll pay you back? He has no intention of paying this back. I don't see that at all. That's just my opinion. So here's the previous email. See, this one was on March 21st. Prior to that, she said, okay, today's visit, I do not owe any money. My doctor is requesting that I have the colonoscopy, the ultrasound, and an allergy test. Per the plan, I have nothing is covered. I cannot even schedule the procedures without the fees being paid. The total cost of the just she's it's not perfect English here, but anyway, she's saying the cost of these procedures are just two of them is $3,800. The allergy test is $300 and the ultrasound is $300. Please let me know how to proceed. If you'd like to speak with them, I can provide a number to call. Thanks. And there's another one here. It looks like Nathan Wade wrote, in the future, please give me notice. I have a work schedule to keep and I can't just suddenly stop to accommodate without notice. I will make reasonable efforts to be available if they reach out via phone around this time. So you can tell he's being very nice. And here's a message from his wife, March 17th at 8:15 p.m. Jocelyn wrote, hello, Nathan. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow at 3:30. Not sure if I will need to pay when I arrive or not. If I do, how would you like me to contact you, settle? So this is obviously the first email, and the email chain goes up. She just obviously printed this from her email account. So, but we kind of can piece it together. It doesn't look like anybody's being very helpful or very forthcoming, specifically on Nathan Wade's side of things. Now, here is a letter, January 20th, 2024. This is the letterhead from our friend Wade and Campbell's firm. Remember, I told you that one of the firms, anyways, was called Wade and Campbell. That's what you got right here, Wade and Campbell firm. Nathan J. Wade, partner, civil litigation, contracts, family law, criminal law, torts, personal injury. Funny how you don't see the word prosecutor on here. He's supposed to be a very big and a renowned prosecutor, but I don't see nothing on there that says he's a judge or a prosecutor. How about that? Ain't that? That's what you call something. And he lives on Honey Pot Way, 30066. I know exactly where all that is right there. But that makes sense because remember, several times some of the phone calls that were traced to, or I should say pertaining to Nathan Wade and Fani Willis, showed him at Fani Willis's house. I believe it was in East Point. It was clearly a booty call. He'd show up at, say, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and then he would leave about 3, 4, 4:30 in the morning. By the time he got home in Marietta, about 6, 6:30, it's kind of ironic. Honey Pot Way. Does anybody else get that? Honey Pot Way. Okay, I'm moving on. He would call and say, essentially, hey, I made it. So obviously we can see what's going on. All right, to whom it may concern, this form is to certify I, Nathan Wade, the father, Nathan J. Wade III, am willing to support my son while studying and or living in Madrid, Spain. I am a licensed attorney in good standing with the state of Georgia, and I currently practice law. I am financially able to support my son with whatever he needs while in Madrid, Spain. I understand that these funds must be available for the entire length of his stay in Madrid, Spain. I certify that this information is true and correct. If you have any questions or concerns about this matter, please contact me at the following email and phone number. But that's interesting, isn't it? And I can assure you of one other thing. He is not going to be able to get away with that, because this type of form here, they can, and I'm sure they will, use to compel him to pay for whatever his son needs. These forms are legally binding. So here's another document, May 6, 2024, Mr. Wade, in regard to a cashier check for $15,000 payable to Fraser Dieter dated 1/31/24. At this time, appears to have not cleared the bank. In order to stop payment on the cashier checks, I will need to do a deeper dive into outstanding cashier's check. There is a 90-day waiting period from when the check was issued until we can submit the stop payment. order without you providing a surety bond. Remember, I mentioned earlier on cashier checks, you have to put up a surety bond, generally for the full amount, to make sure that if there's some kind of fraud or malfeasance going on and the check ends up clearing, that the bank is not stuck holding it. But obviously, this Elise Hatcher from Fifth Third Bank is telling him, if you want to not put up this surety bond, you're going to have to wait 90 days, which of course means his wife Jocelyn Wade cannot receive the needed medical care that she has. If you have any further questions, please contact me at the phone number below. Warm regards. That's interesting. I was just curious. Let me see how this works right here. I wanted to see what the house is that they had. I'll let y'all join me. You can take a quick peek at this. Let me just share my screen with you. Let's just see for a second exactly if this address of his pops up. That kind of got me curious. I didn't see that address before. So let's just take a quick peek at that and see if anything pulls up. It was Honeypot Lane. Let me see. Honeypot Lane. Yeah, that was 33066. Just curious what's on there. Oh, there is one for sale on Honeypot Lane. Looks like realtor.com. Let me see what that, let me look at that address one more time, because that was where I got that from. Be curious to see if that house is still for sale, or exactly what they have done or haven't done pertaining to getting that taken care of. This is the kind of thing, by the way, that attorney Ashley Merchant would do. You know, she's kind of like me when it comes to that stuff. Get down there and get drilling on it. Okay, it's 3754 Honeypot Way. 3754. Let's see, 3754 Honeypot Way. Let me change it to Way. And that's in Marietta 30066. All right, 305. Here we go. Honeypot Way. Let's take a look at his house here. Oh, he's got a good looking house. 7 bedrooms, 5 baths. Wow. All right, it's off the market. So it's either sold or it's not on the market. Let me see what they got, because it generally tells you the last time that it's sold when you look on these websites right here, and what exactly has to happen. So, oh, here it is here. It's sold. No, he has not sold this house. They haven't done nothing. This house last sold on 4/30/2022, according to this website, and it sold for $420,000. So he hasn't really paid much down on this house as far as I'm concerned, by my opinion. But this is a good looking house. What do y'all think? That's got, here's the zoom. There's his address. Oh yeah, this is a nice looking neighborhood. Kind of take a peek at it. So at any rate, bounce back this way just a digit. Oh, I think that's him on the front porch. No, I'm joking. It's not. Sorry, I got a dry sense of humor. Okay, well, good. Let's bounce into the next thing. Anybody got any questions on that? Let me switch gears here. Let me take a look at your comments for just a second. See if anybody's got any questions. All righty. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Oh, Gloria, thanks for joining us. Glad to have you in the house as always, sweetheart. Thank you for being here. Lenny, always sharing on True Social Media. Thanks, Lenny. Appreciate you. All right. Sorry for revealing the above. I didn't know you were going to. Oh, no. Yeah, there's nothing to be sorry about, Zach. To be honest with you, I don't really care what anybody is doing on another channel. Are you kidding me? I don't know how many billion searches there are on YouTube every day, and there's so many people that use YouTube every single day. I can assure you there's plenty of things to talk about, and there's plenty of things and comments and whatever. And I can promise you this, I'm not anything like any of the other guys. I'm not a professional lawyer. I'll tell you exactly what I think. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some good channels out there, and I don't mind talking about whatever. I don't mind giving props where props are due. It's not a problem, Zach. All right. Shirley Jocelyn has a credit card that she could use to pay for the medical test until receiving a reimbursement from Wade. Or where is her stash of cash? That's funny. here's the reality. From what I understand from her attorney and other interviews, she has been destitute for quite some time. I don't believe she has credit cards or at least anything with substantial credit. And I'm of the deliberate opinion that this is just a scam by Wade, Nathan Wade. If she ended up paying for this procedure herself, she would never get reimbursement. I don't think she would get reimbursement on there because somebody like Nathan Wade, he's an attorney. He knows all the tricks in the book, just like Fani Willis. Who knows? He may get this agreement and then file bankruptcy and try to discharge it all. I see that stuff happen all the time, even in divorce proceedings. This is something you got to be careful of. You can have an individual that has a prenup agreement. They end up divorced. They have to pay their spouse, X amount of dollars a year for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. And then after 5 months, 10 months, a year, they file for bankruptcy. And something like that is dischargeable in bankruptcy. Now, remember, I'm just giving you guys my opinions. My quick disclaimer is I'm not an attorney. I'm not a practicing attorney, nothing like that. I'm simply offering my own opinion based on my own opinion, my own experiences, whatever. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. But it would not surprise me. So you heard it here first. At some point in the very near future, you're probably going to see a bankruptcy proceeding, because once bankruptcy starts in this type of proceeding, everything is on hold. Everything's on hold. Perhaps he wants to maybe get that house sold first, so it's not part of the bankruptcy, and he can put all that cash into Fani Willis's safe she's got in her house, apparently. I don't know. But that's a good point, Zach. Yeah, on the porch, you like that one, huh? Okay, well, one thing about me, my sense of humor is sometimes a little dry. Let's take a look at some of this other Fani Willis news. I don't want to push us a ton of time, but there is one or two more things we have to talk about. Let me share this with you here. Alrighty, we got let me stop. I think I got, I know I got to stop sharing and then share this link. Okay. Y'all know I'm a little antiquated on some of this software. It's still a little bit newer, but don't fret or frown. I think I figured it out already. Okay, here we go. Let's take a quick peek at this here. All right. So we just talked about Nathan Wade is having a great day today with this contempt hearing. There's also breaking news that not only is Nathan Wade facing contempt issues, we also have, before I talk about Trump, I'm going to show you one more thing. You have, Fani Willis, and I'll be making a video on this, and we're going to talk about this in the future. Fani Willis has another issue, if you have not heard about this today. One of the attorneys representing one of the other defendants here is accusing her of committing a crime, and the crime is recording a phone call that she should not have been recording. Because, see, Georgia is a one-party recording state, which means, hey, if I want to make a phone recording of somebody, like if I want to get on the phone with somebody, but I want to record the call, if you're in Georgia, one person can do it and the other person doesn't have to know about it. And that's perfectly legal to do if you're in the state of Georgia. Recall that with Donald Trump and the so-called perfect phone call you heard Donald Trump referring to, apparently there's going to be issues with that perfect phone call that are good for former President Donald Trump, because allegedly the phone call was actually routed through Florida. And here in Florida, you have to have permission from both parties. So we go back to the fruit of the poisonous tree type of thing, and that entire perfect phone call will have to be perfectly thrown out of court. So that's going to undermine her case big time. Additionally, as pursuant to this particular thing, let me blow this up so y'all can see this a little bit better. We have another accusation against Sweet Fani. It says Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis may have avoided disqualification from the Trump case, but that decision has done little to put the conservative attacks against her to rest. Newsweek magazine, admittedly, is a little bit on the left-leaning side. You can tell by the way they write these stories. However, sometimes they do have some decent stories in there. Willis is facing a new allegation that she illegally recorded a call between her and one of the defense lawyers in the case. This would be a problem for her. In a Tuesday interview with legal analyst Phil Holloway, we talk about him from time to time. As a matter of fact, he has a new YouTube channel. If you have not seen Phil Holloway's YouTube channel, it's pretty good. I encourage you to go over there and say hello. Attorney Christopher I don't know how to say that name, Khrushchev, is representing Trump's co-defendant, Harrison Floyd, alleged that Willis recorded a phone call between her and one of Khrushchev's Maryland-based colleagues. Let me see if this little speech thing works. You'll ever use that? Let's see. Well, Konchurovs, that's what it said. I don't know if y'all could hear that or not. Probably not. Konchurovs, that's what Siri said. All right. She did not reach out to us, one of my colleagues in Maryland, and was rude, abrupt with him on the phone. And he was dealing with the Maryland case, and I was dealing with the Georgia case, and she ended up recording him, Khrushchev said. So that's kind of interesting, right? Because that could be a serious problem for sweet Fani, in addition to all the other problems. And here is another website called Just the News that is essentially reporting on the same thing. I love this title, Bad Romance. I think that is a play on a movie. You got Fani Willis accused of illegally recording Nathan Wade accused of contempt. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is accused of illegally recording a phone conversation while Nathan Wade, her former special prosecutor and lover, I love this, what a great way to put it, / paramour, I'm adding that, is separately facing contempt of court proceeding in his divorce case. Attorney Chris Khrushchev, who is representing Trump co-defendant Harrison Floyd. I think Harrison Floyd is an Alpharetta attorney that, for whatever reason, was dragged into this, but I can't swear to that. Said that Willis recorded a phone call she had with one of his Maryland-based colleagues who was unaware that she was taping. And of course, they're citing Newsweek, the same source we just went to. And of course, this is on the website Just the News, just so we're clear on that right here. Now, switching gears slightly, we got to talk about our favorite president, President Donald Trump. This case in New York City is set to go to trial very, very soon. I believe it's April 15th, which we better know as Monday, which is extremely unfair and unfortunate. You know, folks, this lawfare, this illegal attacking of an opponent is just so beneath our country. This is the kind of thing they do in Ecuador, Venezuela, and Russia. It is so embarrassing for our country, so sad for our nation. Our First Amendment rights are definitely under attack. The funny thing here is, just like RFK Jr. was talking about the CNN the other day, the real threat to democracy, you have Joe Biden always saying democracy is on the ballot, folks. Democracy is on the ballot. You know, he's like, I'm very, very worried about Donald Trump being elected again. Our nation's not going to survive it. Democracy is on the ballot. And Mr. President Joe Biden, you are correct. Democracy is on the ballot, but Donald Trump is not the disease, he's the cure. You, sir, as RFK Jr. said the other day, you are the threat to democracy. Joe Biden has been going after X, back especially when it was Twitter, Facebook, and some of these other platforms, anything they deem to not be true, as you heard before the Supreme Court about a week or two ago, they are requesting that it's taken down. You know as well as I do, if the federal government calls you and says, hey, this is Joe Biden, would you mind taking this down? You and I both know this is not a request. This thing better be taken down, or else you're going to pay some type of penalty. We know it. You know it. I know it. That's exactly what's happened. This president, Joe Biden, has been dividing us. Every time he gets a microphone in his face, he's talking something nasty about Republicans and specifically MAGA. And the reality is MAGA is the Republican Party, or at least the overwhelming vast majority of the Republican Party. It's Joe Biden that is causing all of these problems and all of these issues. Matter of fact, I have to show you this. Donald Trump has this new ad and some other things that were on True Social that just shows how these people talk out of both sides of their mouth, and they have a long history of doing that. They always talk, for example, about Donald Trump being the violent one. Something's wrong with this man. He's unhinged. He's crazy. He's cuckoo. We have to protect ourselves from Donald Trump. We're in danger, folks, right? Well, I want to take a look at this video real quick, and then we're going to talk about it let's just see exactly when it comes to bloodbath and all these other accusations. Go ahead and take a look at this, and then we'll talk about it.
Press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym. That's what I wish. I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
That you cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
President Walker, how do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
When they go low, we kick them.
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
What a stupid son of a bitch. It's pretty amazing, ain't it? I like that. What do you guys think about it? You like it too? Pretty good campaign ad. I like the way they put that together. I love these type videos that shows the hypocrisy of these libs, these woke individuals, and the nonsense going on right now. Take a look at this other video too. I titled this Joe Biden Liar. He has had a long history of lying, saying that he's this when he's not. Let's take a look at this. Any comments, please put them in the comments below because I do want to talk about it. So let's take a look at this short video. It's about a minute long.
Biden may have more explaining to do. The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
Amazing, eh? Absolutely amazing. Like I said, I love these little clips. Kind of puts everything in perspective. I think it is critical that we all speak out when we see this type of nonsense, because folks, there are a lot of people that and it's human nature to a large degree. When you keep having the same thing drilled, that, for example, Donald Trump's crazy, Donald Trump's unhinged, Donald Trump is going to destroy democracy, and you just keep selling those lies constantly. If we're not careful, they'll take root in our minds and we start believing it. And we cannot allow that happen. That's probably one of the most important things of my entire channel's purpose, is to shed light on indoctrination, to shed light on exactly what's going on in our country, this chipping away of our freedoms over 60 years or so. It's just ever so slight. And we have to stand up and stop it. And don't take this the wrong way, but generally speaking, if something happens to one person, I forgot what it was a year or two ago, some girl was raped at his school, college or something, and then that's terrible. Don't get me wrong. At the same time, everybody was rioting in the streets over it. People were up in arms over it, demanding change. Our rights are slipping away, drip, drip, drip over the last 40, 50, 60 years. I can't get people to even send an email to their senator. And that's what I'm here hoping to change, because this has to change. It has to stop. Gloria, Joe Biden's clueless. I don't even think he even realizes. Yeah, he definitely has some serious memory issues. And I hinted about this the other day. I have some programs coming out that, let's just say they're exposés on President Joe Biden. I think you're going to find them very informative and very interesting, because one of the main questions I'm asking, for example, and I touched on this the other day, is you have Joe Biden currently, let's see, he is currently 81 years of age, and he lives in, let's see, his birthday. Okay, so you have Joe Biden, 81. His birthday is November 20th, 1942. If he wins, God forbid, he wins re-election, when he's sworn in, he will be 82 years of age. And of course, in 4 years, when his term would have completed, he will be well into 86 years of age. So I am exploring the following question. What are the statistical odds of a man, a white man with the conditions that Joe Biden apparently has, that is today 81 years of age? What are the odds that he will make it to 86 years of age? And this is what's shocking. Depending on the statistics, depending on how you do it, because you have to be careful when it comes to statistics, there is only a 55% chance that he would live that long. So it's almost a coin flip. And remember, that's just live that long. That doesn't mean he's in control of his faculties. It doesn't mean every cylinder is firing. Hell, half of his cylinders are not firing today, as evidenced by all the videos we've seen, and of course, the so-called her report that I plan on going over in extreme detail. So does that make any sense? A coin flip to hope our next president can make it another 4 years? When you boil it down, is it not the case that a vote for President Joe Biden is, in effect, a vote for President Kamala Harris? I don't see how anybody would not understand that. And frankly, folks, the thought of a President Kamala Harris scares the living daylights out of me, as it should you. So it is what it is. Zach, I'm glad you like that. I think that's fantastic. Lori, the honest media out there that are willing to expose Biden of his lies are outnumbered. So sad. Yeah, we again, that's just the way it is. We have touched on the fact that in the next year, the next 5 years, they have been predicting that it's going to be small guys like me that are broadcasting the news, that people are going to be tuning into to get opinion, to dissect the news, to review the news, much less CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox News for that matter. More people are shifting to platforms like YouTube, Rumble, and what's the other one? You got Rumble, Twitch. You got a million of them out there now. We broadcast on at least 4 of them at any given time. I think I have the capacity to hit all 8 at one time. The point is this. It's just the way the future is going, and you have to be critical of what you hear and critical of your news. And a lot of these news medias, they just don't have the backbone to do what they should do, because they know if they speak out. Look what just happened at MSNBC with that Republican lady they hired. You had the inmates running the prison. They literally told their bosses what they're going to do. They're like, get her out of here, that Rhonda, whatever. And they got rid of her. And of course, she's got a great lawsuit. I hope she sues them for every dime that she can get out of them. And she should. And she has a great lawsuit, in my opinion, because that's clearly breach of contract. And additionally, she's got a great case for something like E. Jean Carroll just went through, defamation, damage to her character, something along them lines. So I hope she explores each and every possibility, and she gets compensated for all that nonsense that she has went through. I mentioned the other day that CNN, Donald Trump was giving a speech. I think it was with the police in Michigan. This was yesterday or the day before yesterday. I literally had one monitor on Fox News and one on CNN because, I'm monitoring news and checking stuff out all day long. CNN did not even mention that former President Donald Trump was given a speech. You have the de facto presumed presidential nominee for the Republican Party, the man who is likely to be the next president of the United States, and they will not even broadcast his speech because in their mind, it's not newsworthy. They think they know what a lie is versus what a lie is not, and they think we're just too stupid to handle it. They need to be the agency that filters And if anything that they decide is newsworthy, they'll go ahead and tell us about it instead of broadcasting it live like Fox News and a handful of other places do. Folks, it's absolutely outrageous. All right, listen, it's been right at an hour and 45 minutes. I have to rest my voice. I appreciate you joining me for the time that you have joined me. It really, really humbles me to allow you to visit with me and that you take time to visit with me and have a conversation. It is really humbling and a great feeling that you give me, honoring me with your presence. Each and every one of you I consider a family member, and I don't take it lightly. So it is what it is. Thank you so much. If you're still with me, you might as well hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Send this video to one of your woke family members, someone suffering with the terrible disease of indoctrination, because I'm here to help you knock it out. All right? We'll do what we can do. I always say, folks, keep that mind free. Never give up. And until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.